Yeah, on to the Cats here. And you talked about a bummer. It's a bummer for Chip Tranum and the Kentucky running game that he's going to be out for. Do we have any type of estimation?
Your best case scenario, they said a month. Um, in a perfect world, their hope that he will be back for the South Carolina game, which is the second week. He definitely won't play against Southern Miss next week. But in a perfect world, everything stars align. They hope he'll be back for South Carolina, and if not South Carolina, the Georgia game the next week. So that's what we're looking at. They said basically about a month. So, but yeah, it's like since the last time I've been on with you, it seems like there's been nothing but bad news for Kentucky. So, had the whole probation thing, and who knew that probation was still a thing, and uh, and then Chip's injury, and then a freshman wide receiver, Hardly Gilmore, was somebody they're expecting big things from. He has an injury. He's going to be out probably half the season. He's probably that was one of the guys competing for that number 4 receiver spot because obviously you've got Barryon Brown, you've got Dane Key, and you've got Jamori Macklin, but then they're looking for that next guy. But thankfully, that's one position where Kentucky is really strong at. Fred Farrier, who's a transfer, who's from the state of Kentucky originally from Frankfurt. He's probably going to be that wide receiver 4. But yeah, like I said, it just kind of snowballed over the last couple of weeks. But we don't want to talk about all the negatives. We want to get to talk about the positives coming up, right?
Well, Kevin, to circle back on the running back situation, of course, Ray Davis has made his way to Buffalo.
Right.
So with Tranum down, how does that situation shake out right now?
Right now, I think Demi Sumo Karmbe is probably your number one gonna be the starter. I would not surprise me. Jason Patterson, very talented incoming freshman, has been gotten a lot of got a lot of hype about him. Another player, Tavani Mizell. I would see possibly running back committee. Honestly, it would not surprise me to even see Gavin Wimsatt in there. Either lining up because Bush Hamden, the new offensive coordinator, has talked about how he would like to use both quarterbacks, Vandegrift and Wimsatt. I mean, it worked back in the day with Lynn Bowden. You could see a situation where you line Wimsatt up, run the Wildcat and, behind the big blue wall and see what happens. But I think Kentucky, I think they feel pretty good about obviously losing Chip is not ideal, but it's not for the entire season. And I think they've got enough people that they can put in. It may be like a running back by committee kind of thing. Like I said, I think Demi's definitely going to be your starter come Saturday, but it would not surprise me to see the other two guys play along with Wimsatt maybe, as a change of pace kind of thing. And obviously Vandegrift's a pretty good runner as well. I don't know. You could see him line up in the Wildcat too. I think it's going to be it's going to be very exciting to see what Hamden's offense is going to look like with this Kentucky team. He's done obviously, at Missouri and Boise State. Those offenses have been really good, and there's a lot of excitement to see if he can bring that same kind of thing here to Lexington.
I'm excited about this football team. I'm in the process of working on my predictions right here, and they're going to come out on Thursday. So everyone show up at 6 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. And we've got a nice little Twitter audience that has brought us up to about 300 folks. But so Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And Kevin, I blame you for this because you've been a good friend to me and the show for a long time. I think that Kentucky blue. Look at this. I decided to change the color scheme here on the show, and you see this blue. It's everywhere. And when I get to predicting Kentucky, now I made probably the worst mistake of my prediction career a few years ago when I picked Kentucky to win the SEC East. But
yeah, what year? I was trying to remember what year was that.
I'd have to go back into the archives.
Yeah, I remember that, and I was like, well, cool. Let's hope it happens. But here's an interesting thing. I'm not trying to get
2020.
2020, yeah. coming
It
off
might have been.
the of course the 2020 season kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say put an asterisk by it, but with everything that happened and all that, like I said, I'm looking at 8-4. So it's what I'm projecting. I think there's a chance that they can, steal a win somewhere, maybe get 9 wins. Somebody, one of the talking heads, podcasters or broadcasters here made a comment the other day that they thought it would be easier for Kentucky to make the college football playoff than win the SEC.
Oh,
And
yes.
and I was like, yeah, that's 100%, because if you go 9-3, 10, if you get to 10-2 in the SEC, there's a couple years, like the 2021 year, I think Kentucky was 12th in the final standings, for the college football playoff standings. They were 12th that season, so they would have been in. So
Wasn't that 2018? Was that the year they beat Penn State
yeah,
in the
28. I
Citrus
can't remember if
Bowl?
it was 2018 or 2021, but yeah, 2018 was the year they beat Penn State. 2021 was the year they beat Iowa. Of course, that's those games have been
Yeah,
removed from the record books now,
yeah.
unfortunately. So, but
So, Kevin, fill us in on this situation, because the day that it came out, we had our buddy, the real MVP. He's a huge Kentucky fan. He called in, and so we dug into the stories and so forth. And my memory's failing me now, 2 or 3 weeks later, but it's my recollection from reading as much as I could is that there was no knowledge of what was going on by the Kentucky coaching staff.
right.
Like it just seems just so frivolous.
Yeah. Basically, for those who don't know or don't remember, and from 2020, like early 2021 through early 2022, 11 Kentucky players were reported to have jobs working for University of Kentucky Hospital that they got paid for and basically never did any work. So, and there was, like, most of those guys actually transferred out of the program, but the most notable one of those was Chris Rodriguez. And if you remember the 2022 season, he didn't play the first 4 games because they said they were leaving, working on eligibility issues, which turned out to be this. So, now you could probably say it's, some kind of NIL deal with Kentucky UK Hospital or something, and it wouldn't matter. But that's the gist of it, is that some of those players played that the NCAA deemed ineligible. So you lost. So they made them vacate they're on basically 2 years probation, no bowl ban, which is obviously positive, a big thing. But they had to vacate all the wins from 2021, and like I said, basically you're on probation. And then there were also other, along with the football program, there were much stronger and much more serious allegations against the swimming and diving program. And you don't want to. That's a rabbit hole if you don't want to get into, because it's some pretty bad accusations of things like that. But we'll talk the football end of it. But that's the gist of it. Basically, some of the players had jobs for UK Hospital that they got paid for. They never did anything. So that's where we are. And like I said, who knew that the NCAA, still had, a lot of people are like, the NCAA did they still have power to do anything? But, vacating wins, who knew that was still a thing? But anyway, so Stoops goes from being 73-65 now to being 63-65. So it took those 10, took the 10 wins away from the 2021 season, including that Citrus Bowl, that wonderful, awesome Citrus Bowl win over Iowa. So.
And that team, yes, went 10-3. Mm-hmm. So they most likely went 5-3 in the SEC.
I believe that's right. I think it was 5-3, and I can look it up real quick.
So if you remember a couple months ago, Kevin, I was talking about Mark Stoops' SEC record, and I was hoping that he was going to be able to get to 500. Now they've knocked off 5 wins, even though in my record book, I'm not knocking off the 5 wins based on what I know of this situation. I'm in big. Um, I'm in the category of taking away wins, vacating wins when there is cheating that is related to on-field performance.
Right. And
That's
to your
that's my thought.
and to your point, I think that's why the sanctions, I guess, were lighter, was because they said that no one, like, Stoops, no one in the program had any idea that this was going on. But if you're looking, 2021 they were 5-3. They beat Missouri, South Carolina, Florida, LSU, um, and Vanderbilt, and then lost to Tennessee, Mississippi State, and Georgia that year. So 10-3, 5-3 in the SEC that year. So, but that's the gist of that. Was that jobs that did jobs that they didn't got paid for doing stuff they didn't work that they actually didn't do. So
I'm going to have to remember that when we do our all-time rankings and reset all the numbers during the off season, because I will be putting 5 wins back on Kentucky. We rebel here against the
hey,
establishment.
I'm all for it. So I like rebelling against the establishment. It can be fun sometimes.
This Southern Miss team went 3-9 last year, so it shouldn't be much of a challenge on one hand. However, Kentucky has a history of not losing these games, but playing them pretty close.
Right. Oh, you're absolutely right. I think so I just said on paper, Southern Miss should win. I think Kentucky's 3-1 all time against Southern Miss. One loss, I think, was 2016, I believe it was. When Kentucky started, actually, that was the year I think they started 0-2. Then there was a lot of rumors going around about Stoops' job. And then they kind of, they turned the tide, made a bowl game, and everything has been, pretty much positive ever since then. But it's one of those. I just said, it seems like there's always one game, and generally it's a conference game, but there's always one game every year that Kentucky should win and somehow manages to lose. Like a couple years ago, it was Vanderbilt. Last year, it was South Carolina. Actually, you could probably say the last 2 years it was South Carolina. I think I think Kentucky wins, and Kentucky will win pretty handily. I haven't started diving into the Southern Miss team yet. I'll probably do that this weekend. So we got I got, like, for last word, I'm doing position previews, going position by position through the Cats. Start with the quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, linemen. The next one will be the linebackers, and then we'll finish with the secondary. And then we've also got, then I'll probably next week I'll post, I kind of teased it here, but predictions for 2024. Like I said, I'm going to say 8-4, and my original, way too early bowl projections that I had, they came out in June, the middle of June. I had them going to the Liberty Bowl, playing, I think it was Texas. It was either Texas Tech or TCU. I can't remember. I think it was Texas Tech, but but we'll see. Those will obviously update. We'll update those probably. I'll probably start those in week 1. I won't do. I know some people have done some newer ones this week, but I probably won't start ours until we get through the actual first week of college football. So, but there's a lot of. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Kevin. This is what I was getting at with the Southern Miss game and some of the history here with Mark Stoops. So 2023, Kentucky's a 35-point favorite against Eastern Kentucky. They win 28-17. 2022, they're a 26-point favorite against Northern Illinois. They win 31-23, one-score game. 2021, they're a 32-point favorite against Chattanooga. They win 28-23. So these are the games that I recall each year in weeks 1 and 2, where I'm watching other games, and all of a sudden I see Kentucky's in a one-score game with 5 minutes left against fill in the blank.
Right, and Eastern Kentucky, to their credit, the 2 or 3 times that Kentucky's played them recently, have always played them well. But basically, the moral to the story, if you're a betting person, never take Kentucky in the points. So, just for that very reason, like I said, some of those games have been way too close. I'm trying to remember. There was another one a couple years ago. Maybe it was the Northern Illinois game where Kentucky I think trailed most of the game and won late, either on an interception or some kind of late score. And then but yeah, I definitely. If you see Kentucky in 35 points, no. I mean, they have covered big like that before, but it's very rare. So I would definitely, just from my standpoint, never take the points. But that's just my that's my 2 cents on that one.
Kevin McGuffey's the last word on college football. Again, there's a position by position breakdown on Kentucky football coming out. Kevin's predictions are coming, as well as the complete coverage of college football. Last word on college football typically locks in on 30 or 40 teams and has beat writers for all those teams. So please check out what they've got available there.
And we're also one more quick plug. We did the top 4, the 4 power conferences, all of a group of some of our writers. We all made predictions basically for, I think, the Big 10, I think the Big 12 and the ACC. The ACC posted this morning. The SEC will be later in the week, and then the Big 10 at some point. Basically, we went through and picked our 1 through 16 how we thought everybody would play out, how things would play out. So that'll be something probably coming later at the end of this week for anybody that's an SEC. And I can spoiler alert, I can assure you, no one voted for Vandy to win the SEC. So because if you remember, two voters voted Vandy to win the SEC at SEC Media Days. So I can guarantee you nobody voted for Vandy to win.
Did we ever find out who those individuals are?
I think somewhere, I'd have to go back and look. I think somewhere someone had posted who voted for whom. But I'd have to go back and see if I could find that. But if I can, I'll send it to you so you can talk about it. But like I said, no one picked Vandy. Most people, the obvious, like you and we're talking about earlier, Texas, Georgia, and Georgia and Texas probably the two getting a lot of course, now we'll see what happens with Texas now with their losing their top 2 running backs. We'll see how they come back from that. So, but anyway, of course, Kentucky gets to play them next to last week of the season this year. So
yeah, they'll be healthy by then.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah, right. You're right. They get to go to Austin for that. So that should be fun. Should be actually a really fun trip. Would love to go see that game, but that's a place of what there's several places I've always wanted to go see a game. That's definitely one of them. So
for sure. All right, Kevin, appreciate you being here as always. Good to see you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And anytime anytime you need me, I'll be there. So
thanks, Kevin.
All right,
have
talk
a good
to you later.
one.
All right, thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.